Yes, class, break time is finally over, and that break meaning yet another international break. But thankfully, or maybe not so much on the thankful part of you, it's the last international break until the mid-March. And from now on, it's 50 games in the space of 24 days. The bumper, chaotic, exhilarating, but more importantly, the best time of the year is upon us. Tonight, we're back for the Gameweek 12 edition of the FPL Addicts podcast, showing up week in, week out. Hopefully, I bring a bit of comfort, and hopefully this other guy does, despite his username. It's on the contrary of being discomfort. However, he has got some superstar tips up his sleeve, considering the sort of season he's having as of now. And tonight, I bring a new special guest, someone who's appearing for the first time, someone who kind of knows what we're about, what our target audience is, and also who knows how to play the game. That being Kieran, FPL, Discomfort. Good evening to you, and more importantly, welcome to the FPL Addicts podcast.
Evening, Chaza. No, thanks a lot for inviting me on. As you said, I'm what's the phrase? Long-time listener, first-time caller. So no, great to be on here with you today, and just enjoy what you guys do and the way you talk through it. So looking forward to having some interesting chats. Not sure if there's anything up my sleeves. I just had a quick check when you were saying that, and they might be long, but we'll see. Let's see if there's something we can pull out of it.
Honestly, the dad jokes will come out inside 2 minutes. That's what we're here for. Kieran, I want to ask you briefly, how long have you been playing the game, and have you enjoyed this season so far? Now, in terms of your rank history, there was something that you did mention behind the scenes, so we may as well just spill that out now. But you have been playing this game for a long time, but is there something that occurred last season?
Oh, yeah, so I've been playing for quite a while. Since I didn't know what I was doing, right? I think when you're growing up in England and you've got friends and you're into your football and there's a fantasy game out, you all start doing it. And I was one of those who would forget around Christmas, etc. I'd pick players and I'd captain them because I like them. If they do well, imagine it. So like captain Leighton Baines, because imagine if he scores when he was playing like Man United or something. So never that good at it. And it was only sort of after COVID, I was staying with one of my friends who always won the league. And I saw him watching YouTube where there were FPL tips and suddenly realized, hang on a second, there's people out there that kind of nerd out about this. So I kind of like that. So yeah, about 3 years ago is when I figured it out and started to understand what to do and started to have some decent ranks. But I had my team and everything connected to my old work phone, including the two-factor authentication app that was installed on it. So once I left there, it suddenly turned out, hang on a second, I've got nothing. So according to my team, this is my first season playing FPL.
And if we're going to go by that case-by-case basis, you're having a stellar season so far, and you did get 47-point return in Gameweek 11. So take it away with your team.
Yeah, so I guess things about my team, like 47 was fine. It was driven by Saka, right, and the double Palace defence. Voltemada's a regret when I bought him in a couple of weeks ago because I was on the fence about getting Thiago in and didn't really consider Mateta. I was kind of on an agenda against him. I also missed out on going Xhaka at that point. But yeah, team did fine last week. For me, you'll see from my team, I've tended to have like a back four or a back five almost every week and only one or two strikers. Like it's only recently I moved to a two-striker thing. So I think I was fortunate at the start to just... My whole approach was you can lock your defenders in and just play them every week and use your transfers to attack with attackers who should have the upside potential. And then I had injuries and stuff like that and just left players on my bench. So for half the season, I had Semenyo from game week 1 and I benched him, unfortunately. And I kept Saka the whole way through his injury. My bench for a large period of the season was awful. Awful. It had like Fulkrug on it. It had all kinds of players that weren't even playing, but I was just focused on using transfers on the 11. And it managed to just help by like not doing anything rash. So yeah, I've got to a lucky position at the moment. The last few weeks I've been sitting around this rank, which is nice when you kind of hold firm in that top 50k. and still got my wild card and bench boost in hand. So hopefully you can do something over the next few weeks.
Have you found this campaign being the toughest in comparison to the previous seasons?
Yes and no. I think it's been harder because there's a lot of people. I like data a lot. I also like watching football. But what I like the most about it is when there's a period of chaos. And I think the introduction of DEFCON created that instantly. I liked the UEFA and the FIFA fantasy games where you get points for ball recoveries and those kind of metrics. So it's something I'd kind of kept an eye on from a distance for a while. And the one thing that just jumped out to me at the start was, if you think about how a lot of people program their data models and all of the people that are heavy in that community, they're taking it from like Opta. And you're only going to keep the stuff that matters for an FPL perspective, which is goals and shots, etc. So all that defensive stuff, they discarded that for years. So all of a sudden they had to get that and go, wait, what does this all mean? And how does it all convert? So I think, there's people that like to follow some of the people who rely on that stuff or utilize it quite heavily. And that then kind of put us down the wrong path in a few players. I think you had to get a few calls right early on. You had to make a decision on whether or not you wanted Salah or Haaland to start the season again. So you had to get the right one there. You had to figure out like where the value is. So I think it's been a trickier one because there's more options, but I think it's been better because there's like not a template really at the moment.
Yeah, I really like that last point, especially how there's not been much of a template. It's been the big difference of defenders accumulating DEFCON each week, but also going for variation in the middle of a pack. And I also like your emphasis in only focusing your moves on the attackers. Kieran, thank you for showing your Game Week 11 side. And for this edition, there's always a big major role. And that such component is the audience worldwide engagement. And as always, we've got our favourite two loyal supporters in the building, it being Colin Bugler, our Fulham go-to connoisseur. Thank you as always for joining. Miriam, as always, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm glad you always enjoy it. Question for you, Kieran. How did your Twitter handle come about?
So it's interesting, right? When I say about the FPL Addicts and knowing you guys for a while, during lockdown, there were lots of Twitter spaces and Rev and Reedy were both on that a lot. So I was talking to them loads on there. And back then, my Twitter handle was FPL Blue-Footed Booby, which is an awesome bird. You should look it up. It's brilliant. But it also would annoy people because that was like my picture and everything. And a few friends that I had that are in the community wanted to mention stuff I said. And I can't say your handle. Like, I can't take you seriously. So it was then a case of what am I going to call myself? And look, this is actually tied off of, yes, I like to make people feel a little bit discomfort. But for people out there, there's a YouTube group called Yes Theory. And they've got a brand called Seek Discomfort. And great things. They just get people out of the comfort zone, do things and just sort of explore that. So it's kind of an homage to that as well, where it's just cool. I like that whole theory of seeking discomfort and just threw that all together.
I like it. No, it's a whole entire shebang. Get in amongst the community. Yeah, FPL discomfort. No, I like it. And I always appreciate you tuning into our episodes most weeks. And we've also got Shane here of a double pivot. Thank you for tuning in. Very appreciative of it. Now we've gone from Kieran's star-studded rank to what is probably a collective downgrade because none of us can better Kieran's rank at the moment, and that is anyone from the Addicts Podcast Mini League here. So Rev, he scores 42, Reedy with 37. I'll go to my side briefly, and then we will go straight to Marcello's because he's having a stellar season at the minute. It's 43. Look, there's just flags galore at the minute. Even Michele had a great week with 4, but he was somehow first on the bench. Saka saved it. Munoz did well. Haaland missed penalty and a goal. Ultimo got an assist on the edge of half-time away at Brentford, and that's it. So the less said, the better on that front. It feels like an eternity to go the last game week. Marcello, how did he go? 53. Keane, big goal at home to Fulham with 15 there. Cucurella with a clean sheet. Pedro returning up front. And similar to everyone else. Anderson was on the bench, got 9 points. Bruno as well got the assist there too. Kieran, I'd like to ask you, how did you find the international break? Because it seemed to have a lot of billing for what was at stake was big for certain national sides, especially the likes of the flag there in Scotland.
Oh God, I can't go back into Scotland after letting Shane have his entire moment during our podcast. It's interesting, right? Because you'd never hear a Scottish person congratulate England on anything. So yeah, I've said congratulations to Shane once on that. I personally think the more impressive achievements have been Curacao qualifying, the smallest nation to qualify for a World Cup, which has massively been helped by the fact that for whatever reason, for a long period of time, the CONCACAF nations weren't allowed to have dual citizen players, and that was lifted. So if you look at the team, it's basically all players born in the Netherlands, from them being Netherlands Antilles. So good for them to be there. Ireland did a crazy turnaround, right, where they had to beat Portugal and beat Hungary to get into the playoffs. So I think they've done well. And I think it'll also be interesting to see if Italy fail to make it to a third World Cup in a row, or whether they can get through the other home nations in hopefully Northern Ireland and Wales. So, yeah, I'll focus on all the other ones. I'll let you give more glory to Scotland if you want, but I'll focus on the other home nations.
Venice, I haven't paid a lot of attention. I just know a couple of my friends within the work department, they're from Scotland, so we didn't really quite hear the end of it, of them qualifying, to be fair with you.
It was a great game. Like it's one of those games that felt like a Hollywood movie script. So, yeah, it'll be good to have them there. I said it on our podcast as well. It's not financial advice, but, you know, invest in companies in America that provide sunscreen, because the sales will skyrocket with Scotland at the World Cup.
They will. And unfortunately, back onto our normal fun at being FPL, there's certain type of sales that have skyrocketed, especially in the last few days. And we may as well go address a big elephant in the room. And he is massive. Gabriel, I think we just need to talk about what we're going to do here. Well, of course, he's got to go. But what's the best way to go about it? Is it to still get another premium defender, or get more funds for attackers to upgrade later down the line?
I don't know. I'm personally not in a rush to sell him. Like, he's an option to sell this week, but I'm one of those in a position where I can take a price drop without it affecting the selling price. So it's not a case of me going, oh, what's to do with it? I think it's more so that despite there being some element of minute risks, I like the idea of moving to an O'Reilly at Man City next week. Not so much for the Newcastle game, but for next week. And I'd like to keep the options open to an extent there. Other people that I think, there's the obvious one in Van Dijk, which makes a lot of logical sense. I know Shane, my co-host, disagrees on that and thinks, Liverpool, because they haven't kept clean sheets, they won't keep clean sheets. But they haven't had a fixture run of Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds. So, that is your good opportunities to keep them. And he does have... It's the thing, right? With defenders, you're looking for the trifecta. You're looking for clean sheet potential. You're looking for DEFCON potential. And you're looking for them to be a target man from set pieces. And he does tick all three of those boxes. Like when you throw the fixtures in, it makes a lot of sense. I'm just not convinced that Forest is the entry point I want necessarily. I think people might get frustrated if they go there straight away with him getting like a 2 or 3 pointer. But I do think he's good from like next game week as well. And then there's the spanner in the work, the sort of wild card, maybe like a Van Hecker from Brighton, or maybe looking at a Brentford player to bring in for rotating with some of the other defenders, like a Coyote, who seems like the only defender that can throw the ball far enough to get a direct assist, or like Collins. So there's options. For me, the wild card option is maybe looking at a Calafiori at Arsenal if you don't have him, because whilst he's been playing left back, he's left-footed, and the Gabriel replacement is most likely going to be a left-footed playing centre-back, because Arteta just likes this harmony that it provides. And you've got Hincapié, who can also play left centre-back or left-back, and you've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, who can play left-back. Or you've got Calafiori playing left-back with one of them playing the left centre-back. So I think Calafiori's minutes become a little bit more secure moving forward, whereas I think Timber, if you don't have him, might see some rest with Ben White, and Saliba just feels like the worst option into that Arsenal defence.
Great points down back. You seem to have a lot more insight on from that such of aspects from the side than I personally would. But on the other end of the pitch, we've got a good question here from Auto Aim Spammer. And thank you for this one. Would you get Saka in for Antoine Semenyo, who's had 3 blanks in his last 5?
Doesn't this feel like a
knee jerk
João Pedro moment to you?
Yeah, it can be.
Like, we've got Bournemouth about to play West Ham, Sunderland, Everton. I know that he's gone down. Like, I think I heard Clivert might be injured, so that would increase Semenyo in the penalty taking, despite missing one of them. I don't know. It's an interest. I wouldn't sell him right now. The injury seems like he then went and proposed to his girlfriend, right, on their anniversary. So part of me wonders whether the national team saying it was an injury was also to like not ruin the surprise of him heading to see his girlfriend and just go, oh, he's had to go home because he's in. Because if they go, he's had to go home due to personal reasons, she'd be go, what personal reasons? I am his personal reason. I haven't done anything. So maybe there's an element of that. Either way, I don't think he's injured to an extent where he won't be playing. Saka is decent for Spurs, but it's a lot of money for Saka.
Yes.
It's a lot.
Well, where do we go?
I own him, but I don't know if I'd transfer him in. Like, I'm thinking, would I prefer Rice if I was going into the Arsenal attack for those kind of fixtures? And I probably would.
So the only player who's managed to score more points than Declan Rice in the last 6 game weeks is Erling Haaland. That's how prolific a central midfielder such as him has been this campaign, but also the same is probably said for Moises Caicedo. Have you been surprised by his upwards trajectory?
Yeah. I think it's the consistency and the lack of attacking midfielders having consistency. Like, they are boom or bust this season, and more often than not, they're blanking rather than hitting double-digit returns. Whereas you're seeing defenders do it. That it then does mean that a defensive mid who's coasting at 4 points most weeks doesn't need much to jump from 4 points to 7 or 10 points. Like, an attacking return could get them bonus and the assist points. So it does seem as if even if they're just holding that baseline of 4 points through 11 game weeks, that's them sitting on 44 points, which is pretty decent score.
It is. No doubt about it. But publicly, quickly, before we talk more on midfielders and more so where to go from there on in, it's a very interesting one at the top. James Gadsden is still leading by 14 points, followed by Win Lam in second spot with 7.34 and Ismail with 7.18. But the rest of the chasing pack, the arrows are constantly either upwards or downwards. Kiers, midfielders, because it seems it wasn't long ago where we don't believe it's worth paying 13 million for an unbelievable Egyptian over years and save it for Haaland and Saka, pivot set up, and then the rest on defenders. Where do we sit now with midfielders?
I think you play fixtures with midfielders and you accept that they're not going to return every week, but you just look at getting a midfielder in for that 3 or 4 weeks where you're just going to play them. I think people tend to have a decent base of midfielders. Weirdly, now is an okay time to punt on Mo Salah if you had the funds to get to him, because the fixtures are there that you go, right, 4 games with him. He's not been great, but he's still like the 6th or 7th highest scoring midfielder, and he's now got those fixtures. So he's an option. There's also the United midfield feel like a good option at the moment because of the fixture run. I don't know, it's the quirky ones. I think it's the shiny toys that are where people go wrong, where you're trying to jump from one player like a Minter into like who's the next Minter. And I think that's where you can struggle. For me, one that I'm eyeing up at the moment, and he was the flavour before the international break. And I think like the Gabriel injuries now switched everyone into Virgil instead of looking at him still. But people liked Sobsolai because of the consistency of his points and when he does like his minutes, etc. Well, Wirtz is out now for like a month. And if I'm not mistaken, that means Sobsolai moves into that position, which with that fixture run at 6.6 million, that suddenly tempted me a lot.
I think he is a best value pick across all the Liverpool midfielders. We've seen it through the course of the season where they've been inconsistent. However, they've been in games, but it's just more how they transition their possession from defence to attack. I don't believe their new fullbacks are as defensively supported as they should be, and nor have they shown enough initiative from themselves. So that's probably what's been a big downfall. And I think they're more susceptible away from home. Would you think that's a fair sentiment in comparison to their decent home form?
Yeah, I think that's the point. Like, again, it feels like I'm throwing Shane under the bus here, but he put something out here saying, Liverpool have conceded 5 goals in their home games, and then said like 2 of them against Bournemouth, 2 against United, which means they, flipped that. They've conceded 1 goal in 3 home games. That's really good. If from an FPL perspective, your defender losing that clean sheet, you might as well concede 2 goals in that game if it means you're going to get a clean sheet in the next game. Doesn't matter if you concede 1 or 2. So, yeah, I think with the games being at home and also with, I don't know, it feels as if now that they have dropped out of it a bit, they're probably going to play with more freedom again without any expectation on there, because we have to be realistic. They went into the season as the title winners who had spent like £500 million on new strikers, everything. So you were already the best team in the country and you just bought Verts, Isak, Ekatike, Frimpong, Kirkes. Expectations were super high. And I think that would have impacted them slightly. Now, okay, cool, you're out of it. That being written off, which would be mental to do after 11 games, might let them play with a bit more freedom away from home as well. But yeah, I think playing at home should definitely help them out for a few of these games.
Well, it's also just such a massive fixture, and may as well go on to it now. What we've got lying ahead. So for those who've just tuned in some weeks, we have 5 games on a Sunday. As a result of so many sides partaking in European competitions on the Thursday, and as a result of them getting adequate rest time away, which has to be at least 48 hours. But for this weekend, as a result, no European commitments, just the international break. We've got a good set for tomorrow, but also a couple of big games on Sunday. Now, the question to you is, Kieran, and I will go after you. What is one game from this weekend that could be from an FPL sense and/or from a neutral standpoint that you are looking forward to the most?
I'm going to give 2 answers because I've got to say the obvious one, right? As a big Arsenal fan, really looking forward to a 4:30 kickoff against Spurs. Like really, really looking forward to that at home. Lovely. But yeah, I won't focus too much on that one. Instead, I don't know, it's about there's stories behind each of them where you want to see how certain teams do. It's an interesting one because I think this is one of those weeks where it's hard to call a lot of the games where it does feel like 50-50s. I would maybe... This is hard, right? It shouldn't be that hard. I should just stick with Arsenal v Spurs.
It's hard.
But I'm going to go with Brighton v Brentford, weirdly. Because I feel like I was wrong about Brentford. I thought they would really, really, really struggle this season. I thought they'd hired someone with no managerial experience whatsoever. They'd lost their key players. It's game over for them. Like, you're going down, you're letting a promoted team stay up. And I thought they were lucky to win a few of the games, but no, you have to look past that now and give them their credit. Whereas Brighton's a team that I like their manager since he came on. I've liked a lot of their players, and started last season, wrote a long Twitter thread about players like Believer in particular and how excited I was by him. So it's been good to see that. And Brighton are good at home, and Brentford are bad away from home. So I think that makes it an interesting battle where we could be looking at like a 2-2 type of game. So yeah, I look forward to that because it could be 2-2, it could be a 3-2. It'll probably be a 0-0. Now I've said all that, but interesting to me. And also, there's part of me that's considering maybe owning a couple of Brentford players by the time I get to my bench boost. So I'd be interested to see who's doing better because Uwatara seems like he gets onto everything and has lots of shots, but he seems to get onto a lot of things with his head, and he cannot header a football at all. It seems to go behind him more often than it goes in the direction he's trying to. Whereas Shard is a player that I really like, but he's not as greedy. And quite often he's crossing the ball into Dango to header it, and Dango's then missing it. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see that game, which might be a boring one to other ones, but could be quite an exciting one.
No, fair shouts. And before I say my game, you said that you were looking to wildcard. Is that the only chip you've got left, or have you also got other chips needing to be used?
I've got the bench boost as well. So, yeah, thinking of bench boosting around... The plan's looking like 17 now, and then wild carding in game week 19. So at the last possible moment, so that I can go into the second half of the season with a brand new team, basically.
And with 5 transfers up your sleeve as a result of AFCON, how pivotal would that be, having so many transfers banked up during the festive period?
It's crazy because when I've been doing the plans on a few of the sites to go, wow, what's my bench boost going to be? It looks like I'm going to wildcard in game week 19 at the moment with 4 transfers in the bank, which would be mental to do. Now, that's not going to happen. There will be the injuries during the Christmas period, but it kind of gives me a bit of that comfort that I should hopefully have a few of those in my back pocket to deal with anything. And also, because I'm setting up for a bench boost, I should probably have a decent bench if things do go wrong. I just feel like this season, it's patience with a lot of players. Going back to the earlier things we were saying, like you just need to accept your player's going to... There's no player that scores every single game unless it's Erling Haaland. So you just need to accept there'll be a few blanks and just stay patient for the fixtures you got them for.
Well said. Back onto the fixtures front. If I have to pick one game, and yes, they're not having a great start, but I'm not sure how their sort of stick or reputation's gone worldwide. Maybe because of their poor waveform, but they're back at home and they do quite well on this turf. Now, up against a side who kind of rely on one man up front. It's Newcastle versus Manchester City. I'm really looking forward to, because Newcastle got to balance out European commitments in the Champions League, which is a great achievement for them itself, considering where they're at now with their squad and new players starting to gel. And then you got City, who are title contenders. No one's really talking about them because it's sort of our society expectation of them. But also, it's led by only one player, and it's just crazy how unbelievable Haaland has been time and time again, not just this season, but in previous seasons. So I'm intrigued big time to see how this one pans out. And I think it's a big attention for Arsenal, but they can't get too carried away. I think that's our big caution. That would be a fair shout, right?
Yeah. It's an interesting game, right? I do look at that wondering how it could go, because it wouldn't surprise me if that game went any of the possible results. City, to me, still should be the favourites to win the Premier League, because they've won it so many times under this manager. They have the best striker, arguably, in world football, and they've now got all their players back fit, and they keep uncovering talent as well. Like, they spend all this money on Ait-Nouri and all of a sudden have O'Reilly just tearing it up instead. So, yeah, they're definitely one where they win their leagues in November and December. This is Man City time of the year. So you always have to be worried about it. And it's where their squad depth really comes into its own.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think who else would be other contenders in your mind? Because I think Liverpool's slipping away and pretty much gone now. I'm not sure if Chelsea have got the consistency for it. Is it only just Arsenal, Man City as the actual genuine title contenders at this stage?
I still think Chelsea are in it, and I still think Liverpool are in it. Because again, Liverpool, it takes time for any new player to adjust to the league, just more often than not. You look at players like Henry and how long it took him to adjust to it. You then throw in the fact that we've got this increased criticism of players now because of social media, where you and I can be on there saying how bad someone is, and unlikely they see it, but the volume of stuff they'll end up seeing, right, when they're trending on Twitter or something like that. And they're humans. So I think, look, they're still in it. I think Chelsea, we've got to remember Cole Palmer's been missing for a long period of time. and he's coming back into the fold.
Yeah, he was meant to, but now he's suffered a further setback, having read this morning. He actually stubbed his toe on a piece of furniture at his home, so now he's out for a good while.
Yeah, you know how those things happen as well, right? You can imagine there was like a bit of rubbish or his sock was on the floor and he went to flick it up and do some keepy ups with it and just clipped his toe straight into that. It'd be something daft like that, right? Which we all do it, right? We all do it because we go, I could be a professional footballer. Look at how I flick this bit of trash up. He is a professional footballer. He doesn't need to do that.
Oh, a professional trash artist. It could be portrayed as, but there's also something that could be portrayed as such T-word. That's transfers. And if they're trash or they're treasure. Now, Kieran, I want to ask you, and I always ask this third one. When you look at this top 5, both ins and outs, are there any particular surprises?
The ins seem logical, right? Like Mbeumo, the ins are normally reflected by who got a lot of points last game week and has got points a few weeks before that as well. So, you know, a Thiago quite obviously would be up there. A Mateta would quite obviously be up there. And Mbeumo as well. Then you get the logical ones where like Gabriel's gone. So you've got your Virgil coming in for him, which, you know, you were saying probably the most straightforward like for like replacement in theory. And then Timber if you're looking to stay on that Arsenal defence. So they all make sense. The transfers out, Semenyo just seems like a rush to do that. Voltemada, I've transferred him out already. So I'm part of that. I transferred him out. In fact, I'll say it. I transferred him out during the game week for Thiago because I just undid the thing where I went, I should have gone Thiago in the first place. Just do it now and get it out of the way. And I had 2 transfers, so I felt fine doing one of them early. So I can't say anything about the Voltemada Thiago because that's literally what I did. And there is a world where Gabriel to Virgil or Gabriel to Timber happens for me. And then you've got Gokeres who is injured. So yeah, it's just the Semenyo as a transfer out feels as if people responding to him. It feels like the João Pedro situation again. Like transferring a player out when they've not done well, but they now have good fixtures. I think he's more likely to be like that than he is to be like a Villa asset was at the start of the season, where Villa clearly weren't going. They weren't playing well. So holding on to their players because they had good fixtures when they weren't playing well was silly. Whereas with Bournemouth, we know that they play well. And now that they've got good fixtures, it seems like you probably should hold on to him.
I really like that last point, especially the comparison from Villa to Bournemouth as of now. And in terms of any surprises to me, I'm going to say, yeah, in agreement. It's Semenyo based on their fixtures coming up. I think I've got Burnley and Everton within the next 6 and alongside West Ham United. They're just too attractive to dump sort of someone in a way where you think there may be someone better as a result of being impatient with the asset who has risen in price the most this season.
Yeah. And also he's someone who, again, my main regret is that I didn't bench boost in game week 1, which if I had, I would have got Semenyo's points. I bought him in because I went, he'll be good. As soon as I benched him, and I benched him to start at the time, doesn't seem bad now. Again, I was slightly ahead of it, but I had Jorginho, Rutter and Fulkrug starting over Semenyo, which you wouldn't dream of doing now. But at the start of the season with their fixtures, yeah, that's what I ended up doing. And what I've been reminded of when I look at Semenyo's fixtures is not only is he decent when they've got good fixture run, but he hauled against Liverpool. So games like Spurs, they're pretty good games where you're on the counter for a player like Semenyo. Probably Arsenal is as well. If you were to ask me who scores, hang on, they're not playing Arsenal, sorry, Chelsea rather. Chelsea and United are good games for them. I scrolled down to Brentford there. But yeah, against Chelsea and United, would you expect Chelsea to keep a clean sheet against Bournemouth away? No. If I asked you who's going to be involved in the goal, you're probably saying Semenyo for that one. Arguably, the toughest fixture they've got in the next 6 is Sunderland away.
Yeah, no, they do look good at the minute, Sunderland. They're holding ground of our own. There's plenty to look on. I think before we go to our sides, and now I do want to talk about chips, but Kieran, was there anything in particular before I forget and try and acknowledge what we want to get the best out of our guests and just panel members in general? Was there a particular topic you wanted to talk about?
No, I came in here just wanting to join in with the conversation with you, mate. So no, nothing on my agenda or anything urgently itching away.
Amazing. Right, I want to talk about chips here because got a conundrum. If you somehow, or people have got the majority of their chips left, where's it best placed to put all of them? I think that's an intriguing one.
If we had all of them left.
Well, yeah, let's put it that as an exercise because that would be a huge dilemma in itself.
Well, I guess shall we just start with what's the best? What are the best chips, right? And I think for me, triple captain is the least valuable chip out of all of the chips because you're getting an extra captaincy on you're already captain, one player this time now twice a season. Whereas your bench boost, you're getting 4 players points, your free hit, you're getting an entire new team and you can navigate things, and your wild card is a complete reset. But you also want to go for good potential. So if we were looking at the triple captain chip, you've got to start just almost from the logic of step one, do you captain the best player in the game that scores the most goals most frequently? Yeah, fine. We're saying Haaland. We're looking at Haaland. We've got that Leeds fixture in game week 13. We've got maybe Sunderland at home in 15, but I don't particularly love that. I might prefer a Fulham away, to be honest with you. I captained him against Fulham away 2 years ago in game week 3 and got 60 points in that one from him when no one else was doing it because Paulinho was rumoured to be leaving. He didn't leave. I'd say arguably, though, if we're going on how teams have been playing, West Ham at home game week 17 could be a great time to use it on him. And then if you're not going with him, you then go in, well, do you use it on Salah before he goes to AFCON? At which point you've got Leeds away, West Ham away. Do you use it on Saka? There's not really any fixtures apart from that Wolves home game that you'd want to use it on Saka.
Yeah, I think I might just leave it as that when it comes to the triple captainship. Yeah. And do you believe that even next week would be a good time to play the wild card? Because I think you might want a wild card before playing the bench boost because you actually want to have a good bench as a result from that wild card. That would be true, right?
Yeah, but it depends who you've already got in your team. So if you're someone like me with Palace assets in it and you're thinking of game week 17, they're fine, right? Their toughest game is Man City at home. And you're probably still going to play a Lacroix for the DEFCON in that game. And I've got 2 of them. Bournemouth, we've already have a good run. So holding firm on them. And then the challenge right now is if you're looking at teams like Liverpool assets, we'd all struggle to pick 3 of them. Same with maybe you get your Man United one. So it's, for me personally, my team's just in a good position where I've got a bad bench, reasonably so at the moment, that all I have to do is add players into my bench to be in a good position to bench boost rather than anything else. So logically, I would say, yes, you would normally want to wildcard 1 week, bench boost the next. But I don't want to deviate from what's a pretty strong core team just to bench boost. I'd rather incorporate the bench boost into the strong team and then use the wild card to reset out of it and redistribute the money personally.
Yeah. Another shout too, being a free hit. Is this a more sort of difficult one to pinpoint one out? Because it has to be sort of one big potential special week in comparison to wildcard and bench boost. They can sort of work hand in hand. And then triple captain's more aiming for the best player for the best fixture. But it's a more peculiar one, the free hit, would you say?
Yeah, I think I use my free hit. Sometimes your free hit works against you and your non-free hit team does better. So I use my free hit in game week 3 because I wanted to navigate to get players in that I didn't have and I didn't like my players' fixtures. Annoyingly, that week I had double Palace defence at that time and Lacroix got 11 points and Munoz got 10 and I'd free hit them out to bring in 2 Forest players because I still hadn't realised Forest defence sucks. So there's certain times where that goes wrong. For me, I think one of the main drivers in free hits sometimes can be is there a player I think is the best captain that I don't have and wouldn't want to have any other game week? If there is, great. That's a good starting point on it. So it might be I want to captain Mo Salah in game week 13 away to West Ham more than I'd want to captain Haaland. I still want Haaland, but I want to do that. Great. How can I have both of them and then attack the fixtures by getting in Aston Villa assets who I'm still not convinced on them, but home against Wolves, yeah, let's throw in a Matty Cash and a Buendia or a Rodgers or even a Watkins. Let's double up on that Brentford for their home game against Burnley. But would I want to have 2 or 3 players outside of that? No. So it's a combination of that. And then also just looking at, do I have my players where I hate their fixture matchup? And there's a lot of players that I don't want to have. I think that's the part where people go wrong, though, in my opinion, because looking at most of football, good attackers tend to play better when they're playing tougher opposition. That's like the more exciting games, right? Like a City versus Spurs, City v United. More often than not, they're exciting, high-scoring games. And that's when you've taken it out because you're like, oh, I've got my Chelsea players or my Arsenal players playing my Chelsea team. As an Arsenal fan, Arsenal are more likely to keep a clean sheet against a Chelsea or a Liverpool than they are against weaker opposition at times because they're more switched on for it. So again, sometimes you free hit out of your double Arsenal defence and then sit there as they win 1-0 and be kicking yourself. So for me, it's the other options. It's like, can I form players with like core Villa, Brentford? So yeah, I'd agree. Game week 13 looks fun. And I then do the same thing of like, is there another captain I'd want in one of the other weeks? And yeah, maybe like game week 15 and captaining a United player and going like triple United midfield or something for fun.
Oh, you've analysed it succinctly well, and I'm glad we went down this rabbit hole of a direction to carry on the momentum. Let's go through our sides for game week 12, as you wish, as we please. To the viewers out there, what conundrums are you facing heading into this weekend, and can we be any sort of help? Whether it's Kieran providing the discomfort or me just providing absolute bollocks as per usual. But nonetheless, let's go straight to Kieran's seat, followed by mine. Let me get my screen off first. I forgot about that. To the stage for the greatest show. Off you go.
Cool. So, yeah, as I said, I've already done the Thiago transfer in for Voltemada literally at the start. I've still got another move to make. And if I don't make it, this would be my team. Cody Gakpo still not convinced on his minutes, but I just can't transfer him out at the moment. I am tempted, like I said, to bring in Szoboszlai maybe for an Eza now because he might have a bit more limited minutes despite the fixtures being okay for him. I don't know. He's let me down a bit. I've only got the return in game week 9 from him, but outside of that, he's been like a 2 or 3 pointer. And then there is that option of doing the Gabriel to a Van Dijk now and bringing him in instead for Gakpo. So not sure what I'm going to do. There's at the moment, I'll just zoom in it a bit because I know we've got him watching in the stream, but we'll just we look at the back 4 there. We've got Lacroix, Munoz, Senesi, and Captain Armband on Mukiele. Hi, Cole.
I want to ask about this. I saw it straight away. Now, I'm a big fan of ukuleles on grass, but the armband is as ballsy as I've ever seen it. What's the theory behind it?
Oh, I just wanted to get a reaction off of Colm.
Mate, you got to
almost certainly. It's almost certainly not going to... Look, I actually think he's got a very, very high upside for this game, but not to the extent... This sounds like... I don't think he outscores Haaland is the reality. Like that's what it boils down to. I think he could, but I think a lot has to go my way for him to outscore Haaland. And me taking that punt and being wrong isn't worth it. Like last season, was it last season? When was Sheffield United in the league? Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Whenever that was, yeah, I captained a Sheffield United player 3 times that season. You only get to pick like 38 captaincies. Why would I waste 10% of them on a Sheffield United player? Like it was daft. When I look back at myself, I'm going, oh yeah, but Ben Brereton Diaz had a good fixture against Wolves who were on bad form. Yeah, I know, but Erling Haaland was playing like Everton. You're an idiot. So it feels like one of those. He'll probably be my vice captain in reality. But yeah, I just wanted to get that reaction from Colm.
I like it. Great team, nonetheless. And as I can tell how strong it is, seeing Everett Eze first on the bench at the minute. If you wanted to bring him in, which I think looks quite tempting, who would you take him out? Like, I would think Mukiele, but he's in good form at the moment. And you can't really take any Palace players out because they're away at Wolves. Under Rob Edwards, new manager bounce, FYI.
Yeah.
Maybe it is Gakpo.
Yeah, it would be Gakpo. If I was to take any of them out, it would be Gakpo.
It's a strong side.
That's also why, part of me is wondering whether or not I use the transfer, right? Because if I keep that transfer, I've got 2 going into next week. The problem becomes having to use up my transfers before the AFCON ones get added, because otherwise I find myself just making a move for a move's sake. So part of it is just going for the upside. That's why I do like these fixtures for Liverpool. I just don't know if I like them for Cody Gakpo. So that's why, again, I'm not convinced on Eze. I think he's more likely to get a 6 coming up than he is to get an 11 again.
Yeah, he performs a lot better at home too.
And he doesn't tend to get bonus either. So his ceiling is just so limited. So yeah, he probably... That's why at the moment Gakpo's in instead of it, because I just want that fixture. But it is where I'm really tempted by Szoboszlai instead. So instead of going for Van Dijk, going back to Szoboszlai, not because of the reason a lot of people were on him previously, but on the fact that I think he's now going to be playing in that 10 position. And I would love that. If he's on set pieces and playing in the 10, that would be crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can see why you're ranked inside the top 50k. You've just got stellar depth. You've got a just strong squad. You have your own structure and you stick to it. That's why I'm very impressed about your side, Kieran. So thank you as always. And let us know who you made captain come the end of it. We've got our captain's corner coming up very shortly. But before all of that, let's go to my team. Yes, another Arsenal fan. Who would have thought on this pod? 3-4-3. It's very unconventional because it's been fought the back type probably within the last 2 weeks and the general consensus this campaign. However, I've kind of just rolled with it because I just believe it's what's best. So I am thinking of wildcarding next week. I've got to find a way to use these 3 remaining chips, which are nice to have, but the longer you wait, the bigger of a problem they become. So Mukiele's come on field. I don't really see much point taking Gabriel out at the minute because I'll tell you what happened to my move. I did have 1, but I used it 9 days ago. And usually I love to do live transfers on this podcast, but I was on another podcast and I did a live transfer on that. It was Elemen Jai Yun out and we brought the Boom Boom Brian Mbeumo in because I just felt his performance away at Spurs was just unbelievable. So that's what we're going to go with. It's a big case come next week in terms of what chip I do eventually use. So, because I think it's a funny one. This AFCON 5 transfers, as much as it's a gift, it's also a curse to an extent because you kind of have to block that one out from using a chip at all because you've got all these moves that you're just given and you can use them all at once or just tick them along. But it's like a big power move that's been all given to us. Is that how you view it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think you're in a position right now where I think a lot of other people won't be, which is a lot of people are still hesitant to bring in certain players that are going to AFCON because I'd have to use a transfer to take them out. But the reality is you have to use a transfer in the week we get those anyway because you're topped up to 5. If you don't use a transfer that week, then next week you'll still have 5. Whereas if you use a transfer, next week you'll still have 5. So you might as well remove an AFCON player during that period anyway. So there's still a good opportunity to bring them in. I think with the chips you've got at the moment, yeah, you're in a ridiculous position because you've got what? We're in game week. What game week is this? 12?
12.
So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You've got 8 weeks and 3 chips plus AFCON transfers. So you've basically got 4 weeks worth of what do you want your team to be situation.
Yeah, it's a good
and
point,
4 of just regular. So 50% of your game weeks you'll be doing nothing, and 50% of your game weeks you'll be using a chip or AFCON transfers before they're all topped up again.
Mate, that's a really good point. Yeah.
If I were you, I'd just attack heavily, right? So if I was going, right, what's the best free hit week for me? Right, I'm using it there. Oh no, I've come back and I've got loads of injuries. Okay, no problem. Might as well wildcard now and bench. Like you're just in a very good position with those 3 chips.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. No, thanks for that. It's just a shame it doesn't show on the rank, but I like the way I'm playing at the moment, and I think I've tended to enjoy the international breaks more within the last 2 seasons and just kind of forget about football. And maybe I was just getting too distracted by what was going on FPL-wise during the break. So I think that's just helped, just having a better headspace within the game, especially from 7 seasons ago where I would only watch certain games and I wouldn't bring players back in if I transferred them out a while back, and I just smashed it every time I took them out. It's like a bit of a recency bias thing involved. So, no, very kind words, and thank you. I really find your feedback very invaluable. Colin Bugler, will Calvin Ramsey or even Joe Gomez come in for Connor Bradley, or will Slot put Soboslai in 3 again? What's your take on this one? Because I felt Soboslai is a good fit at right back if he needs to go there.
I don't know. It's what's the priority, right, for these upcoming games in particular? I don't know is the reality. I hadn't even thought about him playing there. Like for me, I've just seen Wirtz going out and Soboslai just having way more appeal in playing that role because that is his position. You know, plays for his country there. It's his natural role. He's been more accommodating other players finding their way. So if he's not playing there, who are they playing? Would it be like Ekitike instead with Isak starting through the middle? Which you can't rely on Isak for the whole game. I don't know. Good question. I don't know who would play for Connor Bradley or whether it would be Soboslai there. I might have to pause for a bit longer before making the transfer. It might be a deadline move as to what I do.
Well, make sure you put it on Twitter. That's the main part. And now it is time for the ultimate captain's corner, our much awaited segment where we've gone from discussion at times to copy and paste and let Rev do a different kind of accent to this, but now he's not. And for once, got the time in the world. So this is crammed up last minute. See how we go. So now Brian Mbumo, he's been the most bought in player. Who would have thought him being the first cab off a rank when it comes to this 550,000 new owners. Top scoring midfield in the last 4 game weeks with 33 points. Man United's average FDR for the next 6 game weeks is 2.5, which is the equal most favourable of any side alongside Liverpool in such period. Have to consider the assets from such sides who are leading in red. Bukayo Saka is back to solid enough form with 3 goals in his last 4 games across all competitions. In addition, he is a man of such big occasion. 3 goals and 5 assists in his last 7 league appearances against Tottenham Hotspur. Erling Haaland, who's expected to be heavily backed. We know how dominant he's been. Already surpassed the 100-point mark this season. He faces a Newcastle outfit in which he scored there in previous seasons. But also on the flip side for Newcastle, they have just been waggling their tail bad in their last 2 matches, having conceded 3 goals in each of their outings against West Ham and Brentford. But if you want to go against him, do it at your peril. João Pedro is the other one here. He has scored in back-to-back games for Chelsea and loves trolling owners who've taken him out. Yes, I was one of them. And along with that, the Clouds have conceded a league high of 14 big chances in the last 4 weeks, which is the most of any side. Jean-Philippe Mateta is also worth consideration away at Wolves. Has been so dominant thus far. And yeah, Wolves are toothless. Summit of the table without a win under a new manager. See how the mighty Flying Eagles go. That is all for Captain's Corner. Best of luck as per usual. And as always, may your arrows be green and hope your armband picks never blank. Back to the studio where we went from a discomfort segment to now hopefully a comfort enough panel. How was that?
Oh, look at that. The transition, the moment, it was expert. It was, if anything, it leaves us even more confuzzled than before with more options than we've considered. Although I'm going to stay on my Jean-Philippe Mateta hate train for a while. It's not a hate train. I love him, particularly towards the end of the season. But I keep going back to it. That one game against Bournemouth. You remove that, and he's okay. He's nothing more than okay. But yeah.
Oh, it will be a very funny one. Yes, indeed. Cole, good luck to you as well. Those who tuned in, it was nice, short and sharp, just under an hour. Squeezed what we had to do. Reedy, best of luck to you. Rev, best of luck to you. Marcello, maybe not so best of luck to you because I want to try and overtake you in the mini league. Jack, yeah, hope you're eating shit. Kieran, thanks for joining as always on the podcast. And is there anything you would like to give a plug?
I feel like I should plug our channel, the double pivot on YouTube, but more importantly, well, not more importantly, Shane will hate me for saying that, but I've got a game show on there called FPL Tension, which we had the new episode go out last Sunday. So definitely check that out if you haven't. We've got the Black Box duo on there alongside Gianni. And I've been talking to you about that as well, Chaz, because what I've realised is when you get people who know each other on there and there's a bit of banter and a bit of rivalry, it makes for even better viewing for everyone. So I think the people are speaking and we'd love to see an FPL Addicts version of it between 4 of you. So I'll leave you to fight amongst yourself who the 4 are. We might be able to accommodate 5, but we'd love to have you on that as well.
Brilliant. No, thank you. And I know you may have mentioned it to me. So I apologise for not having got back live. It's just been an absolute killer as of recently. So thank you for your patience. But yes, let me know when there's a slot and I'll do my best to accommodate for it. How does that sound?
Oh, there's always a slot for you guys. The joy of this show in particular is it takes an hour whenever everyone's free. So no, we're all good. We'll get one in the books there and look forward to having you guys on that as well. And hopefully Shane and I can have you on our podcast sometime as well, mate.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for joining tonight.
Thanks for having me.
One last thing, guys. Gameweek 12 deadline is below. It's 11 o'clock tomorrow. Do not lie in. We have an early kickoff from Turf Moor, which is really in the low temperatures. And in this country has succumbed to low temperatures all week. Until this time next week, all the best. Onwards we go. And remember, the Sharks, they don't swim backwards.